If you own an e-bike or you're thinking of buying one, then you'll want to make sure your investment is kept in the best possible condition. So with that in mind, Joe and I are going to talk you through 6 ways how not to destroy your e-bike.
Tip number 1, look after your battery. E-bike batteries are pretty amazing things, but they do need a little care and attention to make them last as long as possible. Try to store your battery at an ambient temperature like you'd find in your house or your apartment. Batteries don't like the cold or huge swings in temperature, so you want to avoid leaving it in something like a cold garage overnight.
Next up, when you get back from a ride, make sure to give your battery some time to settle and cool down before charging. Half an hour should do the trick. Finally, if you plan on storing your e-bike, then make sure it has around 50 to 60% charge in it. If you plan on leaving it for more than a month, then we also recommend checking on the battery and topping it back up regularly.
While doing any of the above once or twice won't destroy your e-bike's battery, if it does become a regular habit, you could reduce the life and performance of your battery over time. And that is something we don't want.
Riding in winter means your bike will be subject to all sorts of nasty stuff from the road. We're talking mud, grit, salt, water, and oil, all doing their best to get into the bearings and moving parts of your bike.
Fitting a set of mudguards will not only spread good vibes, as you won't be spraying your fellow commuters behind you, it'll also protect your bike from all that nasty road filth. Mudguards of old used to be a bit of a faff, but these toe peak models I have in my Specialized, they take around 5 minutes to install and are super easy to adjust.
It might not be the most exciting upgrade you can get for your bike, but in terms of making parts last longer, they're well worth the money.
While mudguards will go a long way towards protecting your bike, eventually you're going to have to clean it.
First up, whatever you do, don't use a pressure washer. These can push water into places that hate water, like your battery, bearings, and motor. You then run the risk of voiding your warranty or destroying an expensive part altogether.
Where things get a little more complicated is that every bike, motor, and battery manufacturer have different recommendations on the best practices for cleaning. So we recommend checking your manual or with the manufacturer on the water resistance rating of your e-bike and whether they have some best practice advice for cleaning.
Point number 4, keep an eye on your chain wear. The chain is just one part of an e-bike's drivetrain, but it's also one of the parts that wears out the quickest. This isn't too much of a problem as chains are relatively affordable and easy to replace.
Where you can get into problems is if you leave a worn chain on your bike for too long, as this will wear out the more expensive parts of your drivetrain, like your cassette and chain rings, quicker. In extreme cases, you may have to replace your cassette, chain rings, chain, and jockey wheels all at the same time, which could cost well over £100.
A much better practice is to regularly check your chain for wear and replace it if needed. You can check for wear by using a chain checker or by taking it into your local Pure Electric store. Also, remember to regularly clean and lube your chain. Chain cleaners and lube from the likes of Muck Off are a good place to start.
Not only will this keep your gears running smoothly, but it should also save you some money in the long run, as you should get far more wear out of your more expensive drivetrain components. Tip number 5. While e-bikes are getting lighter every year, they're still a fair bit heavier than a regular bike, so it pays to keep an eye on your tyre pressures.
If you end up running your tires too low, you run the risk of getting a pinch puncture if you hit a pothole or the edge of a curb. At best, this will mean a swiftly deflating tire and the need for a new inner tube. If you manage to hit something really hard, it could mean a dented or damaged wheel rim.
So don't forget to keep those tyres topped up to their recommended pressures, which you'll usually find written somewhere on the sidewall of the tyre.
Point number 6, look after your bolts. E-bikes, and especially top-of-the-range ones, can feature fancy parts made from carbon fiber or lightweight aluminium. These parts are well up to the job, but they don't like having the bolts over-tightened.
Prime areas include your seat post, stem, and handlebars. Over-tighten any of these components and you run the risk of bending them or even cracking them. At the very least, you could get an annoying creaking sound, and none of these things are good. Instead, look to tighten these components up to the recommended torque value. You'll usually find it written on the component or in the user manual, and it's stated in Newton meters or NM.
You'll also need to buy a torque wrench, so you know you're hitting the correct Newton meters. But the peace of mind of knowing your parts are tightened up exactly right is well worth the investment. So those are our tips on how not to destroy your e-bike.
We hope you found them useful, and if you have any tips of your own,
don't forget to share them in the comments below.
Finally,
thanks for watching. Goodbye.
Goodbye.